The gentleman from California, Mr. Swalwell.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Governor. And
Yes, sir.
I came here not looking for placing blame, but looking for solutions. And at that facility this morning, I saw children, and I saw mothers holding their children. And I talked to a young El Salvadorian boy and asked him why he came here. He said he traveled alone, and he said he came here for a better life. He wasn't holding an invitation in his hand from President Obama. He didn't know what DACA meant. He didn't know what the Traveler Protection Act was. And so I understand in your op-ed you said that the root cause was the belief that they would be allowed to stay here. And so I just wanted to walk through some figures with you. And you would agree that the Trafficking Victims Protection Act was passed in 2008. Is that right? 2008 it was passed?
Let your statement stand as fact.
And you'd agree that in 2008 only 7,500 unaccompanied minors came across our border?
That is factual.
In 2012, the President took executive action with the Deferred Action for Children Act.
Yes, sir. If where you're going with this is where
Governor,
I think you're going with it, here's what you
Governor,
need to understand.
I'll go
I've been
there.
the governor here for 14 years.
Governor, if you don't mind, I'll go there. But you agree that in 2012,
here's what I agree to.
Governor,
the reason people
Governor,
are coming
if I may,
is
Governor,
because
I'll
the border
question,
has not been secure.
Governor,
and
may I
until
ask
we
the
get the
question?
border secure, you are not going to see a stop of any people. As a matter of fact, you're going to see a flood. More than this. And I hope you will agree that the responsibility to secure the border is the federal government's, not the state of Texas, not the county of Hidalgo.
Governor, I would agree, but would you agree that after the deferred action, executive action was taken, 25,000 or fewer, that was 2 years ago. Now today, in 2014, we're at 50,000, probably 80,000 by the end of the fiscal year. So is it your position that it has taken 2 years for the word of DACA to travel to Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, and 4 years for the Trafficking Victims Protection Act to travel to them, and that's the reason they're all coming here?
I think what has happened is the abject failure of the federal government to do its responsibility. And what you have seen is a catalyst that has been growing year by year, and people understanding that if you will get from wherever you are to the border of the United States, you can cross, and the federal government is not going to impede you from coming into this country and staying here. And that is why Americans are upset.
Governor,
that is
you're
why
calling
Americans are upset.
Additional Border Patrol agents. But during our briefing this morning, we were told this is not a matter of catching them, that these children are running into open arms. So wouldn't additional Border Patrol agents only increase the number of open arms that these children are running into?
I think I addressed that earlier when I said that when you have the National Guard, when you have a law enforcement effort, and frankly, it gets back to the issue of whether or not we are going to have a diplomatic relationship with Mexico to the point of where they trust us, we trust them, and they secure their southern border. I mean, this isn't, I mean, if it's going to come down to we're going to put enough people on the border and put them on the border, I'm not talking about 40 miles back and apprehend. I'm talking about, and that's been our objective when we surged into the border region, is put them on the border, have that law enforcement's presence there. And again, if the point is we're going to continue with the same old policies that we've had, and that we don't apprehend at this particular point in time and send those individuals back to where they're from,
And Governor,
160,000,
you've mentioned this
and then
a couple times,
320,000.
sending them back to where they're from, and I appreciate that because
Do you not agree that they need to be sent back to where they're from?
I do agree on a case-by-case basis. We do not want them to come here.
You agree that they need to be sent back to where they're from?
And I think, would you agree, Governor, that the challenge, though, is that where they're from doesn't necessarily cooperate with us, and we need to put pressure on Guatemala and Honduras and El Salvador to receive them.
Absolutely, I agree with you on the diplomatic side. But you agree, I want you on the record here in front of God and everybody, You agree that they need to be sent back to the country they are from.
Governor, I agree. We can, on a case-by-case basis.
But I heard you
cannot
say
take all of
earlier,
these
you agree that
children.
they need to be sent back to where they're from.
But I hope you understand that it's not as easy as catching a child from Guatemala and then just dropping them
Didn't say it was
on
gonna
the
be
corner
easy.
in Guatemala.
This has never been easy. I've written the President since 2005 about the difficulties that we face along this border. The citizens of this region deserve to be able to live in a safe and secure area. And our responsibility as citizens, both as a state governor in my case and you as a congressman, is to secure this country. And sending young people back, if that is what we have to do to send the message, because if we don't, then the only alternative I see is instead of 5,000, then 8,000, then, I mean, the flow is not going to stop. And if we're going to be a country that respects the rule of law, and if we're ever going to have a conversation about immigration reform, which my bet is that you and I probably would like to see that happen, it'll never happen until you secure the border.
And Governor, and I appreciate that, and thank you, Chair. And my point is that this is something more complicated than these children are coming
it
because
is an
President
incredibly
Obama
complicated
invited
issue,
them.
Congressman. It is an incredibly complicated issue. But I really believe that we can find a solution. And that's the important thing for me. And thank you again for being here. We can find the solution to